Yes, sir, it is. During the break, Maria Serpa was able to disconnect, reconnect, and her audio sounded like it was working well at that time.
Great. I will take a roll call to make sure everybody's back. So Ryan Brooks.
Here.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Here.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Here.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Here.
Thank you. Jake Patel.
Here.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Here.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Here.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Here.
Thank you. Jason Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yeah.
Albert?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we're all here. Maria, it's back to you.
Thank you. We're continuing the committee report from the Enforcement and Compounding Committee on item F, discussion and consideration of the FDA's final MOU on interstate distribution of compounded drug products. MOU is Memorandum of Understanding. Included in the meeting materials, we stated that in October 2020, the FDA had finalized its draft MOU that establishes an agreement between respective state authority and the FDA regarding the distribution of inordinate amounts of compounded human drug products interstate, as well as an investigation requirement for such states that enter into the MOU. Detailed in the committee report is information on the conditions of the agreement. Staff have identified significant challenges with the MOU. Ms. Smiley shared with the committee that she has concerns regarding the MOU, and in addition, the board cannot sign now because we do not have a reporting mechanism in place. The committee discussed this complex issue using the next slide, if you could project, as to guide our conversation. Members of the public encouraged the board to sign the MOU and expressed concern if the board does not sign the MOU without an MOU in place. Pharmacies that ship patient-specific products, including total parenteral nutrition to patients outside the state, would be impacted. Patients in some states already have no or limited access to these custom and life-sustaining medications. The committee took no action on this item at this time. Ms. Smiley will continue to investigate the issue so the board can readdress it before the FDA's signing deadline. The committee also requested that NABP be contacted to provide us with a presentation on the information sharing program that is addressed in the MOU. Ms. Smiley or members, do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Smiley, do you have any additions? And members, do you have any questions or comments?
Hi, this is Eileen. The only thing that I would state is that if we don't sign this by October 2021, then the FDA will start to enforce the 5% limit on compounding pharmacies. So there is some time crunch here if we decide that, if the board decides that it's beneficial to sign this agreement, because I think the Board of Pharmacy staff was stating we should proceed with statutory changes to create a reporting thing. So I just wanted to mention the deadline is the FDA has given all states until October of 2021 this year to either sign the MOU. If a state doesn't sign the MOU at that point, then they will start to impose the 5% limit.
Anne, did you want to add anything?
I think that once we know the policy direction of the board, then staff can develop what it believes would be necessary to fully implement the provisions of the MOU. I would say that once we have the policy clear, I think we could probably reach out to the FDA and ask for an extension if it's something that the board is interested in doing but does not have the time to implement. I think from a practical standpoint, the board does everything in public, and providing just a year to fully implement something as involved and complex as this MOU probably didn't quite give at least California sufficient time to do all of the necessary work.
Thank you. So the committee, as I said, is taking no action at this time, but we are waiting for more information and hopefully a presentation from NABP to help us devise a policy statement. Members, do you have any questions?
Hey, Maria, I probably should have asked this during the committee meeting, but sometimes it seems like the federal government does take feedback from stakeholders and states. And I'm wondering, to Ann's point, do we need to send a letter and just establish what our situation is to see if maybe they would change the effective date from October 2021 to some point in the future?
Anne, do you want to respond?
We can absolutely send a letter. I think that part of the challenge is we're not quite sure from a policy perspective where you want to go. And so if the board determines that it's not interested in entering into the MOU, then an extension is not required.
So we're still gathering some information, but from what I'm hearing is that there's a good probability of the potential of having an extension. We'll know more before our next board meeting. Before our next committee meeting.
Yeah, I guess, and what I was wondering is, there must be more states than just us that this would impact. And
Oh yes, this has been discussed for several years. I've heard it discussed when I was at ASHP meetings 2 and 3 years ago. At the Board of Pharmacy, members across the country get together at those meetings, and some states were having real difficulty with it, and we're still, this was again a year ago, so I don't know what they have happened over the last year. They were having real difficulty with it, and we're asking advice of other states. A few states decided they weren't going to sign it at all, but again, things have changed within the last year, and it's now the memorandum is finalized. Before it was just a draft.
okay.
I am happy to, if the board is comfortable, I'm happy to reach out to both NABP and the FDA and see if there is flexibility, just as a point of information for the board and committee moving forward.
Good idea.
That would be great. Any other board member comment? Okay, I think we're ready for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Our first request for comment comes from Lauren Hood. And Lauren, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, this is Lauren. This topic is very important to me and impacts my life greatly. I have been on TPN my entire 26 years of life. I currently receive my TPN from my medical company based in California while I reside in Florida. I have been with my medical company NutriShare for over 20 years. Before joining NutriShare, my liver enzymes were extremely elevated. Once joining NutriShare at a young age, they were able to lower my liver enzyme levels and help keep me alive and thrive. NutriShare has been consistent throughout my life with TBN, which has allowed me to play sports, go to college, become a registered nurse, and marry my best friend. My husband is in the military, so we are unable to choose where we live. With us moving around a lot, I would have to constantly be changing companies. With NutriShare being licensed in multiple states, we know that we can count on NutriShare to always meet my needs and take the most stressful aspect of the military move away from us. I truly believe, despite having 53 surgeries, my health is doing so well because of NutriShare. In a world full of change, please don't take the one thing that has been consistent away from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next request for comment comes from Stephen Gray. Stephen, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Like Maria Serpa, I have been listening to this discussion for many years. In fact, the previous executive officer, Attorney Harold, was very much involved and actually attended, I believe, meetings, special meetings called to talk to the FDA on behalf of various boards of pharmacy, if not all of them, in Washington, D.C. I think I'm not necessarily speaking for or against signing the MOU. I think there's a couple of things that need to be considered. First of all, I don't know if, and that's the key, I don't know what the resources required would be. You know, what is the total amount in resources that we would be asking for from the legislature in order to be able to participate this. The reason this is happening is because the FDA itself does not have the resources in order to monitor all the compounding pharmacies across the country and all the interstate shipments. So it is a matter of resources at both the state and federal level. The second thing I would mention is that whatever the Board of Pharmacy decides to do in California, it does not just affect people like the previous commenter, Lauren Hood, who live outside of California, but gets their product from California. It was quite clear to me during these years of discussion that other boards of pharmacies were looking to see what California would do. And what California does may affect them. If California decides not to sign the MOU, it may adversely affect citizens of California, people that live in California, who get their products from outside of California. So it is a complex issue, and I would suggest having some discussion and getting more information about the resources, et cetera, before going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. And I think for the education of the board, we had these discussions during the committee, but maybe it'd be helpful if Anne or Ms. Smiley would speak just a minute or so about the required reporting that's in the MOU and some of the, I guess, weight of that would be added to the board.
Anne, do you want to take?
This is Anne. So my guess is you'll probably hear from both of us, but there is significant reporting obligations included in the agreement, including transaction data, prescription volume data. So a lot of information required to be reported at the pharmacy level. In addition, there is significant reporting requirement also with respect to complaint investigations and different types of notifications and recalls and those kinds of things. So part of the reason that it's difficult to project what our resource need is because I'm unclear at this point. One, if the board is interested in doing it, and if you are interested in doing it, then I believe we will need to do some sort of statutory change to put some of the reporting obligations on the pharmacies themselves, to require them to report to the information sharing network. So it's very difficult to anticipate what the staffing or resource need would be until, one, we first have the policy discussion, the high-level policy discussion as to whether or not California wishes to enter into it. And then once that decision is made, we can give you both statutory recommendations as well as what we need the resources necessary to fulfill all of the reporting obligations that are included as a condition of the MOU.
Maria, is Albert allowed to make a comment?
Just a minute, Albert. Let's finish this conversation. Ms. Smiley, did you have anything to add?
Not at this point. Most of the new reporting requirements would be on the pharmacy, just as Anne had said, about the volume of prescriptions. It's a lot of information the board staff currently doesn't have. Mm-hmm. There's also different mechanisms when we have to identify a complaint and an investigation. and there are different ways we can share that. So there's some mandatory reporting. Currently now we can do discretionary sharing with the FDA pursuant to California law, but this would, under this MOU, it would be mandatory for certain items, including complaints.
Right. And just to let the rest of the members of the board and the public know, during the committee discussions, we are certainly cognizant and don't want to create any limitations or barriers to patients receiving these life-sustaining products, but we don't have enough information to have an official policy statement. If that helps to know what the mood of the committee is, we just don't have anything official yet. And then Albert, did you have anything in response
Yes,
to?
I do. Yes, I do.
Actually, in response to Stephen Gray's comments, because we're still in public comment.
I have a comment on regarding Anne's comment.
Okay.
I hope the board and all the board member hear what she's saying, and I hope the board of pharmacy hear what they're saying. I've been in this board for 8 years now. We have a lot of regulation and legislation to add on the duty of the pharmacist and the pharmacy staff or technician. But like Ann said, it takes money, it takes manpower to do all those things. And I just want the board member to understand, don't fix anything that's not broken. If it's not broken, don't add any more regulation and legislation on it, because it costs money and they don't have money to do it, just like the board don't have the money to do those things. That's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue with public comment.
Our next comment comes from Richard Long. Richard, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're going. Okay. Hello. Yes, my name is Richard Leong, and I would like to answer the board's question on that slide on number 2 about how would it negatively impact provider and consumers that are outside of California. I work for NutriShare, and we are a home infusion pharmacy that specializes in the provision.
Richard, I think we lost you.
Because of this.
I'm sorry, Richard, can you repeat your last couple statements? We lost you there for a few seconds.
Oh, okay. Let's see where I leave off. Well, I'd just like to comment on coming from try to help the board answer the question on policy question number 2 about the negative impact to the provider, pharmacy provider, and the consumers or patients that are outside of California. What I'm trying to say is that I work for NutriShare. We are a home infusion pharmacy that specializes in the provisions of parental nutrition care. We have our patients that are nationwide, and it'll be sad where, well, first of all, these patients come to us because of what we are able to do that their local provider aren't able to do. Because we are specialists in provisions of nutrition, we consider ourselves experts. And the care that we provide is, again, the risk of sounding arrogant, bar none. We can't compare to others. And, we get our referrals from self-referrals from our patients themselves, and also from physicians or medical clinics, hospitals, establishments. Example is like in Alaska. We have a patient from Alaska because a physician there called us because they do not have, in what they thought, a local provider that could adequately care for their patient on parental nutrition. And so there's a concern there where it would limit, if the California Board of Pharmacy does not sign the MOU, limit access to our specialized services. At the same time, too, on a personal perspective, me being a pharmacist here at NutriShare, it would negatively impact my employment with NutriShare. And so I thank you for the board to hearing out my comments, and I hope that that I encourage the board actually to really consider signing the MOU. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leong.
Our next request for comment comes from Rod Okamoto. Rod, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Super. Hey guys, I'm impressed by this group. You guys are having a really good, thoughtful discussion of the MOU. I've been watching it for 10 years. It's evolved quite a bit actually to the favor of us pharmacies. From the early days, it was much stricter and a lot more negative consequences for us as providers. Again, my name is Rado Komodo. I founded NutriShare in 1991 in the Sacramento area, and we service patients throughout the United States out of pharmacies in Kentucky and California. Again, 30-year birthday this year. So I'm going to address the first point of your slide titled Potential Benefits and Negative Impacts to California Consumers for the board to enter this agreement. Again, this MOU in its current state is in an acceptable form for us because the consequence of exceeding the 50% is that this elevated reporting mechanism becomes in place. In my opinion, the number of complaints will be very small, and the Board of Pharmacy already has obviously systems in place to investigate drug quality complaints. NutriShare's sterile pharmacy compounding experience over the past 30 years and over 1 million bags of TPN dispensed has not resulted in a single contaminated bag of TPN. So the number of reports incidents will be very small. Furthermore, for states that do sign the MOU, the FDA has contracted with the NABP, as you discussed, to develop the pharmacy reporting system that's generated by the pharmacies, but it's only these reporting only gets launched, gets ignited if there's an adverse patient product complaint. So it's not this, as Albert's
10
concern
seconds.
is it's not a big burden on the pharmacy. Kentucky State Board of Pharmacy this morning reported that it will not be a big impact for the surveyors in Kentucky. But thank you guys, appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
I'd like to make a comment on his comment. This is Albert. I'm not talking about in this case.
Thank you,
I'm talking about
Komodo.
in general. In general, I'm not talking about specific on this case. Please don't misunderstand me.
Our next request for comment comes from Christy Poindexter.
Thank you, Albert.
And unfortunately, it looks like Christy has dropped off the call, so I will keep an eye out for her to come back. And we will move on to Daniel Martinez. Danny, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. We did send in a letter to the committee on this issue, and I'm not sure, Chair Serpa, if that's been made available to the board. But the reason I'm referring to this letter is because I heard a comment from the executive officer that should the board decide to enter into this MOU, that they would be seeking legislation to have the pharmacy submit this reporting information to the FDA. And if that is indeed the case, I would like to say that it would be in direct violation of the MOU itself. On page 6 of the MOU, it states specifically that the State Board of Pharmacy or other appropriate state agency will, within 30 business days of identifying a pharmacy that has distributed inordinate amounts of compounded human drug products interstate, will notify the FDA of such pharmacy through an information sharing network or by email, and it lists the email, and will include the information described in the submission and disclosure of information in this section of this MOU. Nowhere in this MOU does it obligate the actual pharmacist to send the reporting. So I refer back to the letter that we sent in that should the board decide to enter into this MOU, they should be seeking information on what kind of resources they would need from the legislature in order to make this happen. And as you can hear from previous testimony, this is a really important information. And to further piggyback off of Dr. Gray's point, we're not just talking about people who live in other states or frankly, military families who keep moving around. We're also talking about people who at one point resided in this state and then left for whatever reason, who already have a good relationship with their pharmacy to keep getting their drugs from that same pharmacy. So I just want to point that out real quick. Thank you.
And one last check, our prior request for comment has not returned to the meeting. So at this point, oh, here's one more. Gibran Maciel, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you have a echo. Do you have 2 devices open at once into this meeting?
Hello, is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Hello, is that better?
Yes.
Hi, Gibran Maciel with NutriShare. Just a couple of comments on the time frame, legislation versus regulation, and the idea of an extension. I think my understanding is this issue has been going on for over 10 years, the MOU process. So the idea of an extension, I mean, maybe you all probably have a different relationship with the FDA than we do, naturally. But I think that, Frank, if I'm going to be frank, I'm going to say staff should have been following this, right? 2, legislation versus regulation. The legislature has been captured by COVID in its current environment, and as has been said in the headlines, anything not directly to COVID is frankly not a priority right now. And given the immediacy of the issue with the MOU, I would urge you all to think about doing what you can through regulation, given that the legislative environment is a highly uncertain environment in this period in time. Finally, the time frame issue, I would say that this is we can't be told on October 1st that on October 12th or whatever it is, we have to cease operations. Just from a practicality standpoint, we're going to need time to implement, to figure out where we're going to go if it's not going to work out here. Just to be blunt, but just from a business operational perspective, waiting till the very last minute is not going to frankly be helpful to us or to the consumers who rely on us for life-sustaining nutrition. Thank you very much.
And it looks as though the prior commenter has not yet rejoined us, so I will dismiss her request. And it looks like that will conclude our requests at this time.
Thank you, moderator.
Moderator, I've been
It sounds like you're having some
off.
problems, Maria. Hello?
This is the moderator. I am as well having some issues closing the panel. Oh, there it goes. Finally. Thank you.
Okay. Maria, are you still there? Well, I think what we're going to need to do is go on to the next
Hear me?
report. Now we can. Hello? Well, we could for a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm
now.
going to be trying to call in on the phone. I'm going to be
Okay, you're going in and out. Moderator, if she calls in on the phone, are you able to, you can't put it up as a panelist, right?
Depending on how she calls in, if she calls in using the link from her phone, I will be able to promote her. If she calls in using the audio connection, I will not, but I could still unmute her from the attendee panel when needed.
I am, this is Albert, I'm using my iPhone. It's working fine.
Okay, thank you. Maria, did you hear that?
Yeah. I'm going to try to connect via phone.
It have to be iPhone 12 though, Maria.
Okay.
Great. While she's fixing it,
yes.
while she's fixing it, I would like to make one more comment.
Go ahead.
I want to make sure I'm myself clear. I mean, when I said when things not broken, don't fix it and not broken. But in this case, it's broken. So I'm for the signing MOU. It's not I'm against it. Okay. But I'm only talking about when something's not broken, don't fix it.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay.
All right, Maria, I have you connected by phone and promoted to a panelist. If we could check your audio.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's me or, but I tried different forms, not just the different forms of internet. So just to finish on this item, what was it? F. This is informational. As you can see, there is some urgency, so the committee will be addressing it once we get more information to develop a.
Oh no, it's going out again. I wonder if it's a connection.
Anne says she's lost.
I think it may be. I think it may be the connection.
Yeah, I think it may be the WebEx.
I would use yeah, I would try switch audio and try to calling in. That may be better.
I'm on my iPhone.
She's on her phone.
So the question is, if you're on your iPhone through the link, it's the Wi-Fi in your house. If you're on your phone calling to the dial-in, it's the signal in your house.
That is
exactly
correct.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, she's trying to get that worked out. Why don't we move on to the next report and then we can come back. So I'm going to turn this over now to Ricardo Sanchez for the Communication and Public Education Committee report. Ricardo, please go ahead.
I was going to say, I can't hear you. I'm just joking. Hold on. Let's see.
Okay.
Give me a quick second.
Craig, just to confirm, we're going to come back to finish.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
I just and I'll try to knock mine out real quick for everybody. So,
don't worry. Take
okay.
your time.
First of all, it's only informational information that I'm giving, since we didn't have any action items with our committee. But let me just start this off. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a report from the Communication and Public Education Committee meeting that was held yesterday, January 27th. A copy of the chair report at that meeting is included in the board's meeting materials. I will go over items from the committee meeting and update the board today on the committee's discussion. Discussion and consideration of possible changes to the notice to consumer poster / display. A little background on that. Business and Professions Code, Section 4122 and CCR Section 1707.6 require pharmacists to post a notice to consumers provided by the board. The notice may be a poster or video screen that is readable by consumers. A copy of the current poster in English is in attachment 1 for the rest of the board members. CCR 1707.6 also specifies the wording of the notice. Any changes to the current wording would require rulemaking to amend CCR 1707.6 and possible legislation to amend relevant BPC sections. Copies CCR section 1707.6 and the relevant BPC sections are in attachment 1. The committee asked staff to recommend ways to refresh the poster. The committee also directed staff to seek input from consumer groups on possible changes to the wording of the notice. At yesterday's meeting, staff reported receiving input from the California Alliance of Retired Americans, the California Ethnic Health Network, and the Health Access California. In addition, staff solicited input from board inspectors, the consumer groups, and board inspectors provided almost 24 specific suggestions that are listed in the committee report in the board's meeting materials. Also, staff also noted the current notice to consumers poster may overload consumers with too much wording. Staff suggested a more effective approach. Could provide less wording and more photos, icons, and graphics to illustrate the text. Attachment 1 contains examples of some DCA publications that use visual elements effectively to convey important messages. Finally, staff recommended the committee consider focusing on what are the most important things consumers should know when visiting their pharmacy. As a starting point, staff noted consumer groups and board inspectors both suggested that pharmacist consultation and the right to free interpretive services are important messages for pharmacy consumers. Our discussion committee members noted too much information makes it difficult to design an effective poster. Members supported a clean, more visual look for the poster. The committee also recommended narrowing the focus to specific consumer information, such as information about interpretive services and having the purpose of medication included on the prescription label. Staff suggested the committee might consider focusing on information related to preventing medication errors. This could encompass information about the right to consultation, the right to interpretive services, putting the medication purpose on the label, and a few other specific items. The committee accepted the suggestions and directed staff to report back to the committee with suggested wording for a revamped poster, sample of a possible design, and draft language for a possible regulation required to change the poster wording. Any board member comments? Hearing none, can we open it up for public comment? Moderator.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field and submit that to all panelists. Our first comment comes from Stephen Gray. Stephen, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. As was discussed very briefly in the committee meeting, there is the option under the law to use a video display of the poster information, the required by statute and regulation. That was put into the law because at that time, which was 10 or 15 years ago, some pharmacies were already using video displays to give patients while they were waiting or visiting the pharmacy very important health information, encouraging immunizations, for an example, and prenatal care, etc. Since that time, the cost of video display on a relative basis has come down quite greatly, and a lot more pharmacies I see are using video display, not always for health information, but sometimes for advertising information or even just public service information. I would suggest that in line with this subject, maybe the committee or maybe the board would feel that another committee should examine the possibility of encouraging or requiring pharmacies to use video display as a means of getting to the public more effectively this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Seeing no additional requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments or any comments from board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll just continue. Discussion and consideration of required pharmacists to provide a telephone number on prescription labels. Background. At the November 2019 board meeting, the board adopted language to amend CCR section 1707.2 related to mail order pharmacy consultation. The regulation requires mail order pharmacies to provide a phone number for patients to receive consultation from a pharmacist. During the board's discussion, it was noted that out-of-state pharmacies must provide a toll-free number to facilitate communication between patients and pharmacists, and the number must be provided on the prescription label. However, there is no requirement for in-state pharmacies to provide any phone number on labels. The board directed the Communication and Public Education Committee to discuss and consider whether all pharmacies should be required to provide a phone number on prescription labels. At yesterday's meeting, staff noted Business and Professional Code Section 4076 and CCR Section 1707.5 provide requirements for patient-centered labels on prescriptions dispensed to patients in California. Neither section requires pharmacies to provide a phone number on the prescription label. However, the statute and regulation do require many other elements to be printed on the label, which are included in the committee report in the board's meeting materials. Copies of BPC Section 4076 and CCR Section 1707.5 are in attachment 2 for our board members to view. For comparison, staff reported that neighboring states, Nevada and Arizona, do not require dispensers to provide a phone number on prescription labels. However, Arizona does require pharmacies to provide a toll-free number on mail order prescription labels. Two other large states, Texas and New York, do require pharmacies to put a phone number on the labels. Staff also noted a decision by the board to require pharmacies to put phone numbers on prescription labels would most likely require a statutory or regulation change. In addition, there could be a cost in requiring pharmacies to provide a phone number on labels. Part of our committee discussion, the committee heard public comment noting that although some pharmacies already do include phone numbers on labels, the number may go to an answering service or call center, not to the pharmacy that dispensed the prescription. This makes it difficult for a patient to contact their pharmacist for consultation. Committee members requested more information for considering whether the board should pursue a statutory or regulatory change. The committee directed staff to reach out to consumer groups and report back to the committee with feedback regarding the pharmacy phone number on prescription labels. Any board member comments?
Yeah, Ricardo, this is Albert.
Yes, Albert.
But I don't know why the PIC should be fired. I mean, why would you want to have your phone number on the label? Because how else the patient would call for refills? So, I mean, this is not a business sense for them not to have a number on it. But I think instead of recording, I think they should have a number. They have somebody to answer if there's any question.
Thank you. Any more board member comments?
I just want to say I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's we're sending it back to the staff. We discussed it, and you know, how much information can you put on the label? You know, but the phone number, it makes sense, and we're going to get some information back at our next meeting that we have from staff.
Ricardo, this is Debbie. Do you anticipate that the phone number would be outside of the area where it's the 12.5?
No, see, that's one of the problems. The 12, you know, how much information can you actually fit in there? So we're taking everything into consideration: the font size, the prescription, and what's it for. And, you know, you have to put a lot of some stuff is mandated you have to put on, but you know, how much do we want to add to it? And so we have a number of things to consider here, and staff is going to research some of this and get back to us at our next committee meeting. So just, we didn't vote on anything other than ask for staff to research it and provide us with some suggestions. Because it will put, like you said, the phone number, we have to make room somewhere on that prescription.
I've never received a prescription that didn't have a phone number on it.
Yeah, see, I get mine with a phone also, but apparently it's we must have a different kind of pharmacy, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
If I get Bob Davila to chime in here, I know he's on. He's our public information officer. He could probably elaborate a little bit more on it. Bob, are you on?
Do you need to unmute him, moderator?
I do not see Bob in our attendee list.
Okay.
Okay. Well, he's not on.
Oh, wait. Yes, I do. My apologies. He is logged in as Robert, not Bob. Robert, I've promoted you.
Hi, Bob. Are you there?
He's promoted, but maybe his.
Ricardo, I was waiting for Bob to be hooked in. So did this come up because it was like a consumer complaint? What brought this to the attention of the committee? Do you know?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
Debbie, I can answer your question. This actually came to the committee following a licensing committee meeting and a board meeting in November 2019. There was some discussion about adopting language to amend another CCR section related to mail order pharmacies. And as part of that discussion, there was some concern about whether pharmacies should have a phone number on the label. And so this sort of, at that time, the board asked the public health committee to look at this issue. That's how it arrived with the committee.
I mean, do you remember, Bob, or was there an issue? I mean, was there a concern that, I guess I'm trying to figure out if there was a problem that we're solving, or are we creating a solution where there's not a problem?
As I recall from the discussion of that committee meeting and that board meeting, the issue was that consumers should have a way to reach pharmacists for consultation. And since the particular issue at discussion at that meeting was regarding a toll-free number, part of the discussion was whether pharmacies should be required to put a phone number on it, and number two, should it be required to be a toll-free number as required for mail order pharmacies. So it was just, I think the issue was, should there be some parity regarding community pharmacies with mail order pharmacies, and should there be a number on there, and should it be a toll-free number or not a toll-free number? And that's why this landed in the Public Ed Committee's bailiwick.
Okay.
Debbie, this is Ann, if I can just chime in a little bit. So I think after the discussion at the committee, staff are going to be reaching out to consumer groups to find out if there is a problem to be solved.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just trying to address, again, some of the requests from the board and, trying to get answers to it, that's all. Anyway, any more comments from board members?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, we'll
yeah, that's what I mean by don't fix anything that's not broken.
Yeah, that's why we're sending it back. And we make decisions. We ask staff to research and stuff, and they come back and we present it to the full board. But again, we didn't take any action. We didn't vote on anything, so this is all just informational for you, so you also are aware of what we're working on. I'm going to continue with Section C, which is discussion and consideration of developing information materials about the Board of Pharmacy for consumers. So background, the board provides the public with important information about patients' care, consumer protection, and regulatory issues through a variety of print and electronic materials. These materials include brochures about counterfeit prescription drugs, a directory of drug take-back locations, and web pages with resources for drug abuse prevention. At yesterday's meeting, staff advised the committee of plans to develop additional educational materials focusing on the mission and work of the Board of Pharmacy. As an example, materials would provide information about the board's membership, board committees, meetings, how to participate in meetings, etc. Other information could explain the rulemaking process, how complaints are investigated, the disciplinary process, and other ways that the board performs its consumer protection functions. Educational materials also will explain why consumers should talk to their pharmacists about their medications. This information would be posted on the board's website and also be available to download, print, and distribute. Hard copies would be available to disseminate at board meetings, training events, and public outreach activities. These materials would be intended to increase general public awareness of the board and to educate the public about the board's role as a consumer protection agency. Part of the committee discussion, committee members asked staff to report back on the types of materials currently provided for consumers, as well as new materials developed for public information. Any board member comments? Okay, hearing none, can we open it up to public comments? Moderator?
Ricardo, this is Ann.
Yeah.
If we could
Yes,
just
Ann.
clarify and accept public comment on both this item as well as the phone number issue, I think we maybe missed public comment on that one.
Okay. We don't need the public comments, you're saying?
No, what
Yeah.
I'm suggesting is the moderator, as you open up the public comment, please
Yes.
make sure that members of the public are aware that we will accept public comment on both the prior agenda item that dealt with the phone number on the prescription label, as well as this current one related to consumer materials.
Okay, just as Ann said. With that, let's open it up to public comments.
This is the moderator, and we have opened the Q&A panel for requests for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. As a reminder, we are accepting comments on both agenda items 11B and 11C. And our first request for comment comes from Stephen Gray. Stephen, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I want to comment on the telephone number on the prescription label. That has come up several times in probably some limited number of organizations that do not put the phone number of the pharmacy on the prescription label. They put the phone number of a call center or a phone number of an automated refill system or something else on there. This prevents, for an example, and we've had complaints, that patients who maybe sent someone to pick up their prescription, and when they got it home, they had a question, or they were concerned that was maybe the wrong product or the wrong prescription, and they could not call back and talk to the pharmacy. Even those pharmacies don't even have a website phone number directly to the pharmacy or any other directory. And I believe this is a very serious and dangerous issue that you cannot, when you think there is a problem, maybe the misfilling of a prescription, you cannot talk to directly the pharmacy that dispensed the prescription. We've also had complaints from EMT people that when they're visiting a place and they pick up a bottle and they want to know what it is or talk to the pharmacist, they also cannot talk to a pharmacist at the pharmacy that dispensed the prescription, even during business hours. Likewise, I suggest you, when you do the surveys, you talk to EMT, emergency room people. We have quite a few pharmacists now that are full-time in emergency rooms across California. And the pharmacists there even complained that they would get an emergency room patient in and they would bring in their medications. They suspected there was a problem with the medication, and they also could not get in touch with, during business hours, the pharmacy that actually dispensed the medication, let alone after hours. So I think it's important to consider this as a public health emergency nature, because it may not be a lot of instances, but when it is an instance, it can be very serious. And I would encourage you to require a phone number on the prescription label that is to the pharmacy. There is language that says phone numbers and other information can be on the receipt, but not very many patients bring their pharmacy receipts to the emergency room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen Gray.
Seeing no further requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. Any follow-up comments by the board, board members? Okay, hearing none, I will continue. Update on communication and public education activity by staff. But I'm going to have Bob Davila go over the script, board provided training, staff outreach, and news media. So Bob, if you could highlight some of those, greatly appreciated.
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Chairperson Sanchez. The 4 items here, and I just want to go over them real quickly, and then perhaps the board or public could comment at that time. The first item is the script. Articles are planned for the next letter include a new pharmacy laws for 2021, a reminder about the new security prescription form requirements and cures reporting requirements that have gone into effect, and tips for how to complete a pharmacy technician application. We expect to publish in February. Item number 2 is board provided training. I just want to let the board know that inspectors and staff provided CE training via WebEx on prescription drug abuse and diversion, what a pharmacist needs to know, on October 7th and December 16th. A total of about 150 pharmacists participated in these events. Item number 3 is our staff outreach. We provided a list of staff outreach activities that occurred between October 1st and December 31st, 2020 in attachment 3 in your meeting materials. And the last item, number 4, is news media. Staff responded to news media inquiries that are listed in attachment 4 in your materials. And that's all that we have to report under update on communications and public education activities by staff.
Thank you. Thank you. Here, hold on real quick. Thank you very much. Any board comments? Board member comments?
How on the seminar, how you gotta give it? You gotta give a virtual or in presence?
The board provided training was done via WebEx.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Hearing none. Moderator, can we open it up to public comments?
This is the moderator. We have again opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on the screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Seeing no requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. Thank you. Future meeting dates. Scheduled committee meeting dates for 2021 are April 29th, 2021, July 14th, 2021, and October 27th, 2021. Any board member comments?
Yes. Ricardo?
Yes.
Can you see if you could work on come up with anything that how to improve the survey, the pharmacist workforce survey, you know, how you increase the participation. So we really like to have that feedback. So see if you could come up with something to increase the participation on the survey.
So direct the staff to look for how we can increase the participation in the pharmacy work survey. Okay.
Thank you.
So I would just recommend that that is currently in the swim lane of licensing, and sometimes it's a little bit challenging when we've got work being done by both committees.
Yeah, well, let's let licensing do it first. How's that? Once they're done, we'll take a crack at it. We have to.
Passing the bucks, huh?
No, they already started it. They're working on something. Might as well
Okay.
finish.
Okay.
And then we could.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Ricardo.
Okay. With that, no board comments. Any more other board member comments? No. Okay. Can we open it up for public comments, moderator?
We have opened the Q&A panel. For requests for public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type I would like to make a comment into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Seeing no requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. Well, thank you for your patience. This concludes the Communication and Public Education Committee report.
Thank you, Ricardo. Now we'll go back to Maria to allow her to finish her report, assuming that she's online here. Maria, are you here? No.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you when you say, can you hear me? But then you go away after that.
I'm going to stay on my phone.
Okay.
The better connection.
Okay, you can go ahead, please.
Okay, so we're on G. That is correctly displayed. Thank you. And thank you for your patience. This is discussion and consideration of FDA guidance document in sanitary conditions at compounding facilities, guidance for the industry. This agenda item is intended for education. Provided in attachment 5 of the committee's report is a copy of the FDA guidance document on insanitary conditions at compounding facilities. As indicated in the document, the FDA encourages states to take appropriate action to contact the FDA when such an agency identifies a compounding facility that is engaged in poor practices where insanitary conditions are identified. On a related note, the board received new information today on an FDA warning letter and subsequent press release. This was just released this morning. This is regarding the use of bulk drug substances. The agency
You're breaking up again.
encourages compounders to know their bulk drug substance, also known as API. The agency encourages compounders to know their bulk drug substances supplier because drugs present risk to patients. This information was posted on the FDA website today. Members, do you have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I think we can go to public comment.
Moderator?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type I would like to make a comment into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. And I'm not seeing any requests for comment. I will close the panel.
Thank you. And again, there is no action on this item. The next item is consideration of the compounding of methylcobalamin. The committee again discussed this very complicated during a previous board's public comment. We previously took no action on this item. Methylcobalamin has been discussed in detail at previous compounding committee meetings where we discussed USP standards and the impacts to the board's proposed compounding regulations.
Lost you again.
This chemical continues to be a challenging discussion. Continues to be a challenging in light of legal and safety issues. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm almost done. Let's see. FDA reports called 483 reports have noted observations where compounding facilities are using raw materials that are potentially insanitary or containing hazardous contaminants. The materials regarding this information are in attachment 6 of the committee report. There appears to be no pharmaceutical grade methylcobalamin available that would be acceptable for patient use. However, during public comment at the committee meeting, there was a comment that pharmaceutical grade chemical was available. After the meeting, we could not validate the comment, and if it is truly available, this would make this whole issue moot with the FDA and the board. The committee discussed the issue of using, if you go to the next slide, these important considerations. We discussed, can we go? Yeah, thank you. We discussed access and options to patients to obtain products under visions, balance product access with safety. The committee received significant public comment from individuals with personal experience and prescribers detailing the benefits of methylcobalamin. We had a very robust public comment period. All during public comment urged the board to not take action on this issue. The committee thanks members of the public for their testimony. Again, the committee has taken no action on this item. The staff was asked to continue to educate licensees when the practice is identified and to exercise appropriate discretion. Staff will continue to work with the FDA and with council on this issue and keep the board updated. So again, we took no action on this. So there's time for member comments now. This was
Moderator, you want to open for, oh, you said member comments, not public. All right.
Yeah, just for member comments.
Yeah. Got
I
it.
wanted to give it a moment. We did have a very robust discussion during the committee, so that may have sufficed, but I'm sure public comment. So let's go ahead and open public comment.
This is the moderator.
Maria, I do have a comment before you go on. During the meeting, I was very happy to hear all those people calling in and give us input. So I really like that participation. So I wish there's more pharmacists or licensee or the public call in and participate in our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. At this time, our first request comes from Daniel Martinez. And Danny, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. This topic continues to be very important and at some point very emotional with some of the testimony that committee members heard. Methylcobalamin is a very, very important substance and compounded substance that needs to be allowed. Now, the committee report states that there was no action taken on the issue and that individuals commented that the committee not taking the action. That's true, but it's also sort of misleading. As stated during comment during the committee, there are a lot of concerns that board inspectors are de facto banning pharmacists from compounding appropriate grade methylcobalamin. Now, for those, for purposes of transparency, the comment that was made that there are appropriate grade methylcobalamin available, that was made by me. Subsequent to the meeting, I also started to try and get the source of that. I, at this point, cannot disclose that because, as I am told, that kind of information, it appears, is a trade secret that is done by the folks who provide that methylcobalamin. Now, further to that, on the FDA's website, there is a National Drug Code directory where members of the public can search for unfinished drug products by either NDC or their name. And on that site, when you search for methylcobalamin, there are various labelers that provide this in bulk form, in bulk powder form, and some of those are labeled under the heading of market category as a bulk ingredient for human prescription compounding. I would ask the board to verify whether this would be an appropriate way to identify whether the methylcobalamin that pharmacists are using to
10
compound,
seconds.
if this would suffice as it to say that this is for use in human products, as the FDA seems to indicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I'd actually like to respond to a couple of things if you stay down.
You're breaking up a lot, Maria.
Don't misrepresent you. Regarding validating
We can't hear you.
API, I would refer
Sorry,
you
Maria, we can't hear you.
to regarding to the validating of bulk API, I would refer you to
Well, that's funny. I hear myself.
FDA website, founder to compounder liar.
Yeah, but we
Can
can't.
you hear me now?
Yeah, it's breaking up and your words are getting kind of strung out there. Not quite sure what the problem is. But try it again. Are you speaking now? Because we can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep dropping, but on two things for Mr. Martinez. I would refer you to the FDA website with their press release of today that emphasizes the compounder must validate the source of their API. And in their report, they have documented that some products that are marketed are mislabeled and may not be correctly appropriate for patient use. I don't know all the details, but we'll refer you to the FDA on that part of it. On the second part, maybe Anne could respond to the rumors of quote unquote banning the process, because that's not what the board has been doing. So maybe Anne could respond to what are the inspectors doing in educating the public?
Thank you, Maria. What I will say is that if a board inspector identifies that there is a problem with an ingredient, they will typically walk through what the problems are with an ingredient and provide some education about perhaps the quality of the product that's being used. I am not aware of us, however, issuing any cease and desist or interim suspension orders that are requiring someone to cease practice.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, did those answer your questions?
I don't know that they answered the questions. To your first point about the press release. So I have, in fact, have not seen that press release. But I guess I would, even without reading the press release, I would say if the FDA's position is that the pharmacist or the supplier has to validate that it's an appropriate grade, one of the requirements under the guidance released by the FDA is that it has to be from an FDA registered facility. And if so, wouldn't that by itself qualify that the bulk substance is actually it's fine if it's registered with the FDA? I don't believe the FDA would not allow it to be registered if it wasn't an appropriate grade ingredient for human compounding.
Again, I'd point you to the current FDA information. There's ongoing information, and most recently this morning. Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
We do. Our next comment comes from Rachel Israel. Rachel, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Lippy and members of the board. My name is Rachel Israel. I am the general counsel and part of the family that owns Lee Silsby Compounding Pharmacy in Cleveland, Ohio. We are a licensee in California, and we also hold licenses to compound and dispense into 45 jurisdictions in this country. Like the TPN providers that talked before us on another issue, we also have specialized expertise in a number of areas. And this is why patients from all over the country and their providers rely on us to provide high quality medications that are compounded. Specifically with regard to sterile compounding of methylcobalamin, there's a lot to discuss, but I just want to address a couple of the issues that have been raised today. With respect to board action, committee action, or investigator action, I would like to submit that a cease or desist order or an actual suspension is the last thing that any compounding pharmacy would want to face in the state of California. To be faced with that kind of disciplinary action is incredibly risky and extremely expensive to defend. Most of the compounders I know, including my family at Lee Silsby Compounding Pharmacy, we want to stay as far away from any kind of actual enforcement action as possible. So while there may not have been any suspensions issued or cease and desist orders issued, it is not accurate to say that the investigators are not putting pressure on compounders. They absolutely are putting pressures on compounders all over the country, all the California licensees, to stop sterile compounding with this product, even though there is nothing in California law or in existing FDA regulations that prohibit sterile compounding with methylcobalamin. They talk about education, but what's really happening, we are hearing from
10
colleagues
seconds.
that citations, orders of correction, and straight out pressure are being put on people to stop this. And it's not fair if there isn't a law in place that prohibits the conduct. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you giving this some important consideration.
Thank you.
Greg, for the record, I'd like to note that I've rejoined.
Thank you, Shirley.
Our next comment comes from Stephen Gray. Stephen, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would just like to confirm from what I heard yesterday, or at the meeting, excuse me, not yesterday, there was a PIC, I believe, in California who has a long history and apparently successful history of compounding and dispensing this product, and was visited by an inspector, and based on what the inspector said, did cease the product, and now his patients are without this product, which is, they consider life or death. And so, you know, there is a disconnect here. Second, after the meeting, and actually during the meeting the other day, I tried to research the term pharmaceutical grade. Apparently that's the term that the inspectors are using, and I could not find in federal or in state law any definition, legal definition of pharmaceutical grade. One of the commenters at the meeting, who was sounded much more expert than I am, said that pharmaceutical grade is a conclusion you reach from many other factors, and it's a term often misused. So I think there may be just a problem here, primarily with communication or understanding. The thing I know is that the law says that compounders have to have reliable sources, and certainly they have to have sources that, you know, meet the standard of practice for whatever it is they're compounding. But this is a very serious product that is a metabolite of regular B12 cobalamin, and because it's a metabolite, it can get past the blood-brain barrier that other products can't. And it has to be compounded because it has to be preservative free. And so it's not something that is going to likely be produced on a massive scale because of the number of patients, but also because of, you know, the practical issues that apparently it's not patentable. So I think that this is something that the Board of Pharmacy needs to be very careful, that is well communicated and goes very carefully about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. I think, you know, you summarized a lot of the discussion that we had in the committee, and that's why we're taking no action at this point. But your point about maybe what we quote unquote underground or unanticipated actions, maybe Anne, or I'm not sure if Christina Costa is on the line, they could comment specifically on how the inspectors are providing that communication and education to licensees. From what I understand, a licensee may choose to stop offering or compounding, but it's not being required by the board for them to stop. And that could be difficult because to the patient, it's just not available anymore. But Anne, because I don't think we were able to validate that individual's specific information, because again, that's site specific, and we can't publicly comment on a site inspection. But in generalities, Anne or Christine?
Hi, this is Anne. Unfortunately, Dr. Acosta is not on the line right now, so I don't know that I can say too much more than what I said earlier. The other thing that I guess I would just note is, as indicated in the meeting materials, the FDA has taken a position on this, and I think that included in the meeting materials is a 483 that speaks specific to this. I think one of the things that we talked about during the committee meeting is that there's multiple regulators in the space. And, when we look at, the conditions of unsanitary conditions that the FDA has established, as well as some of the actions that they've taken, I believe that when we are doing some of our education, I believe we may also be providing those types of information points to the licensees, and as the 483 indicates, the FDA is doing the same.
Thank you. Dr. Gray, does that answer your question or your comment?
I guess it does not really, but I think she said so in good faith. When we put this into the category of unsanitary conditions, we need to be careful what we're talking about. So we did hear testimony that from people that were compounding, that they made sure that their products were sterile and free from pyrogens, et cetera. But we also heard what was disturbing to me, that they did not provide any chemical analysis. And so their products may have been contaminated with lead or something else that is detrimental. Likewise, we did hear from testimony from producers that said they did do chemical analysis and made sure that the products they were using were free from that type of contamination. And then the last thing I would say is, if we proceed too strictly in this, and based on all of the emotional testimony, I mean, there must have been 4 or 5 or more physicians that called in to say how important this was to their patients, and some of them have been treating the patients for decades. But if we shut this down in California, where are we forcing the compounding to go? And where are we forcing these patients to seek, products that may not be the quality that some of the compounders, the pharmacist compounders, are actually providing them? So I think the board has to consider all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. And I think that's why the committee had some thoughtful discussion and listened to the testimony, still balancing the issues of patient access and safety. And at this point, we're not trying to throw up any barriers. We're really following what the FDA's guidance is telling us and the information from the FDA. And as Anne pointed out, there are 483 reports, which are FDA inspection reports, showing that they are, in some situations, contaminants in bulk chemicals, products that are used in compounding. You mentioned lead, but there's also arsenic, mercury, and other things that are hazardous components that are contaminating the raw product. So it is a big issue for the FDA, and we're just still on monitoring mode and educating the licensees. Any further public comment?
No further requests. Would you like me to close the panel?
Please do.
It is closed.
And again, we're not asking for any action on this item. We will continue to be updated in committee with what's going on at the FDA. The next item is item I, review and discussion of enforcement statistics. Attachment 7 includes the enforcement statistics for the first 6 months of the year starting in July. They are here for your review and information. Any member comment? Okay, public comment.
We've again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment on the enforcement statistics, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field, and submit that to all panelists.
Hi, President Lippy. This is Jason. Unfortunately, I have to step out of the meeting, but I will let you know when I return.
Thank you, Jason.
And seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Please do. We'll move on to item J, future committee meeting dates. Our next enforcement and compounding committee meetings are scheduled for April 29th, 15th, and 20th. Separate from the regular committee meeting, we are scheduling an informational hearing on white bagging. That will be on either February 18th or March 4th. We will release additional information as soon as the meeting details are available. For members of the public, please contact our executive officer, Ann Sodergren, if you're interested in presenting during the white bagging informational meeting. Mr. President, that concludes the report from the Enforcement and Compounding Committee.
Thank you, Maria. Good job. Okay. Next is Legislation Regulation Committee update. As the chair of Legislation Regulation Committee, I will provide the update. The committee did not meet this quarter in large part because the legislative deadline for bill introductions is February 19th. I anticipate significant discussion on pending legislation during our next meeting. I also want to mention that with us today is Sheila Tatayan, the new DCA counsel, who's assigned to work with the board on its regulations. So Sheila, if I misspeak, please let me know. Members, as indicated on the agenda, the board has a number of regulations in various stages of promulgation. Proposed regulations to amend Title 16, Section 1769 and 1770, substantial relationship and rehabilitation. The first update is, this first update is regarding a regulation proposal that was approved by the Office of Administrative Law on December 28, 2020, with an immediate effective date. As indicated in the meeting materials, the regulation provides transparency and clarity to applicants regarding rehabilitation criteria the board considers when evaluating eligibility for licensure. Members, are there any comments on this rulemaking? Hearing none, let's open up to public comment, please.
This is the moderator. We've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on the screen. Type, I would like to make a comment into the ask field and submit that to all panelists.
Okay,
Seeing none,
we should close it up.
it is closed.
Thank you. Next is discussion and consideration of board adopted regulations undergoing final review by the Office of Administrative Law. We have 3 regulations undergoing post-adoption review, including proposed regulations related to renewal requirements, off-site storage, and regulations related to dangerous drug distributors and third-party logistics providers. Summary information is provided in the meeting materials. Members, do you have any questions or comments on these 3 regulations? Okay, hearing none, let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. We've again reopened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, I would like to make a comment into the ask field and submit that to all panelists.
Okay, saying none, let's close it up.
It is closed.
Thank you. Next is discussion and consideration of board adopted regulations undergoing final review by the Department of Consumer Affairs. Members, the board has 2 regulations undergoing post-adoption review by the department, including the board's rulemaking related to automatic refill programs and its regulations specific to quality assurance reports, use of automated drug delivery systems, including the self-assessment form requirements. Summary information is provided in the meeting materials. Members, do you have any questions or comments on these 3 regulations? Okay, hearing none, let's open for public comment.
This is the moderator. We've again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field and send that to all panelists.
Okay, let's close it.
It is closed.
Thank you. Next is discussion and consideration of board-approved regulations undergoing pre-notice review by DCA or Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. Members, we have 5 regulations undergoing pre-notice review by DCA, including regulations regarding ownership, including provisions related to ownership of pharmacies by trusts, updates to the community and hospital self-assessment forms, updates to the wholesaler third-party logistics provider self-assessment form, amendments to the board's inventory reconciliation requirements, and amendments to the board's drug loss reporting requirements. Summary information on these 5 regulations is provided in the meeting materials, including both the current status as well as the history of action for the rulemakings. In addition, 1 regulation has moved to the next step in the rulemaking process since the release of this agenda. As indicated in the meeting materials, the board's regulation to establish the criteria for training programs that a pharmacist must complete to provide HIV pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis was recently filed with the Office of Administrative Law. As indicated in the meeting materials, it is anticipated that the 45-day comment period will begin on January 29th, which is tomorrow. Members, do you have any questions or comments on these 3 regulations? Okay, I'm not hearing any. Let's open for public comment.
The public comment period has opened with a Q&A icon with the Q&A panel. Please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field, and submit that to all panelists.
Okay, hearing none, let's close it. I'll move on.
It is closed.
Thank you. Next is discussion and consideration of board-approved text to initiate rulemaking, staff drafting documents for pre-notice review. Members, board staff are drafting the necessary documents for 3 rulemaking packages as a precursor to submission for pre-notice review. The rulemakings include the proposal to establish training requirements and certification programs and updates the application for pharmacy technician licensure, which is incorporated by reference in the regulation. The board's proposal related to requirements to maintain a current electronic mail address with the board, should a licensee have one, and the board's proposal related to notification requirements for the temporary closure of licensed facilities. Members, do you have any questions or comments on these 3 regulations? Hearing none, let's open for public comment.
The Q&A panel is open for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on the screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field, and send that to all panelists.
Okay, hearing none, let's close it.
It is closed.
Okay, next is the future committee meeting dates. The committee's next meeting is scheduled, that is the Ledge Reg Committee meeting, is scheduled for April 29th, 2021. Next is Organizational Development Committee report, and I will now provide an update on several items under the purview of the Organizational Development Committee. As there are no items for action, I will provide the updates on all of the items first, and then solicit comments from members and the public. First is budget update. As included in the meeting materials, the board's spending authorization for the year is $29.3 million, which is a 2% increase from the prior year. According to preliminary budget reports, the board has received $14.2 million in revenue, the majority of which comes from application and renewal fees. Further, the board has expended $11.2 million in the first 5 months of the fiscal year, including almost 6.9 million in personnel, almost 2 million in pro rata, and almost 1.8 million in enforcement-related costs. A review of the fund condition prepared by the department indicates that at the end of the fiscal year, it is projected the board will have 3.5 months in reserve. Next item is board member attendance, and the member attendance is summarized in attachment 2. Next is personnel update. As detailed in the meeting materials, the board has a number of vacancies, and you can see them there. The meeting calendar for the remainder of 2021 is included in attachment 3. As included, the board's next meeting is scheduled for March 18th, 2021. Members, do you have any comments or questions on the information I just reviewed? Hearing none, let's open for public comment, if there is any.
We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Seeing none, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, the next topic is discussion and possible action for the increase in the exempt level and salary of the executive officer position. With us today is Olivia Trejo, the Section Chief, Office of Human Resources. Olivia, I'm going to turn it over to you to give your presentation. Moderator, can you unmute her?
I have promoted her to a panelist. Olivia, you do have control of your microphone.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Olivia Trejo, and I am a section chief within the Office of Human Resources at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for allowing me to be here today and provide assistance or answer any questions regarding the possible board action of increasing the exempt level and salary of the executive officer and the process surrounding that request. Or if you have any questions regarding the memo that was provided to you as part of the agenda on this topic.
No questions? Go ahead.
Did everyone get a chance to read the memo on the process and what will be required and the motion that may be needed for today?
Did everyone get a chance to read it or not?
Yes.
Okay. Let's assume that maybe 1 or 2 people didn't. So you want to assume that and go ahead?
Sure. So right now, the executive officer position for the pharmacy board is at exempt level G with the salary of starting with $10,822 and maxes out at $12,056. Right now, there is a compaction issue between that classification and the salary range with that of the assistant executive officer, which maxes out at $12,341. Additionally, currently the supervising inspectors are also making more, and there's a compaction issue with that classification series as they get $11,963 salary is at the max, in addition to a $2,000 recruitment and retention pay that they get monthly. And so the discussion today is to decide if we want to move forward in getting the exempt level of this position increased. And things to consider would be the program complexity, program growth, health and safety considerations, and like I mentioned earlier, the salary compaction that it's facing with the other lower level classifications reporting to the position.
Hey, Greg, I'm not sure if the motion is necessary, but I'm more than happy to strongly support an increasing the salary for executive officer.
Okay, this would be the salary level and the salary. Currently, the executive officer is at the top of her level, and the top of her level is in some cases less than others that are subordinate to her. So I'll take your motion. Does somebody want to make a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, there's some echo out there, but
yeah.
do I need to make it very specific to certain levels?
Well, it's going to level F.
Yeah, you have to put F.
So, yeah, there's a lot of feedback. And Olivia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you?
No, that's fine. If I understood correctly, the request and the next level to G would be F, which would be the more appropriate level increase, and that maxes out at $12,377.
Right.
So according to the salary compaction summary you have here, currently the assistant EO and supervising inspectors and 44 regular inspectors have similar or exceed that of the executive director. I'm just curious, move her to F. How does that change much? Is F still just barely above the assistant executive officer?
And
the levels are.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. The levels are established by the California Department of Human Resources, and it does go per the next steps. And so the next step would be F. And in some of the description within the memo, it does talk about complexity and program growth. Anything beyond that, you would definitely need a strong justification to support anything beyond level F, which would be the next step for this position.
Great. I have a comment. I got a question on Olivia. Great.
Yes, go ahead.
Olivia, how does it make sense that the assistant is make more than the direct executive? Can you explain that to us?
Yes, sometimes these positions that are civil service, like the assistant executive officer and the supervising inspector positions, they do go through cost of living increases. Sometimes they get additional recruitment and retention pay that the executive officer is not eligible for, being that it's an exempt position. And therefore, there's sometimes some disparity between the salaries of the civil service positions and that of the exempt position, which this position is.
So Olivia and Greg, are we able to actually recommend increasing to level D, or is that not possible?
You could recommend it. The process would be to submit a justification to the Office of Human Resources outlining several categories. What we will do is prepare the package and get the director's signature and approval. Then it would go to agency for their review and approval, governor's office, and then ultimately to the California Department of Human Resources, and they would give the final approval. At times, they do consider various factors and may not approve what is being recommended by the board, but it is something that can be submitted if that's what you vote for.
Olivia, how often have they gone with a jump of 2 levels?
It's not often. It's pretty rare to be honest, and so just be mindful that sometimes if it's a little too high and doesn't meet that category, they will maybe not approve it at that level, but maybe a level or a step below than what is being submitted.
So in other words, if we went for the higher level, they didn't approve the higher level, they wouldn't just say, too bad, you didn't try for the other levels, so you don't get anything?
Correct. They may modify it, deny it altogether, and make the changes if they feel that the request is not submitted in accordance with some of their.
Do you happen to know what the salary range is of the level above that?
I can look that up real quick if you give me a couple minutes.
That would be
Well, I
great.
didn't hear what your question was, Greg. There's someone needs to go on mute.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of background noise.
There is, unfortunately, and I don't know
I
who.
apologize. I think it may be Miss Olivia, if you could mute while you're not speaking.
Yes, this is the moderator. The background noise is coming from Miss Trejo's audio connection.
Oh.
So unfortunately, when her mic is open, that's what we're going to hear.
I see.
Is there anything I can do on my end or?
I don't believe so without really spending some time checking your connection.
So looking at our, I think, are you looking at the last time we had a change? Is that what you're looking at?
They look at another
No,
thing.
I'm going to look at the salary of the next level above F.
Right.
For level D is in dogs. Because it does seem like, I mean,
Whatever the next level is.
well, the next level is F, and then the one after that would be D, right?
So what
I
I
don't
see
know.
as a problem is that even if we make it to the F, that is still 1, 2, 3, 7, 7. That is barely above, which I know how hard N works, and I just think that
We agree.
I really
Yeah,
think
we
we need
agree. I
to.
mean, that's why I was asking, when you go to F, I mean, right now, there's like the assistant executive officer, 10 supervising inspectors, and 44 staff members have similar or exceed her salary. So if we go to F, I mean, how much does that change?
It
I'm not
doesn't
sure.
change, it doesn't change by much. It's a few $100s a month. And I was under the impression that we could not go more than one level higher.
Well,
So,
I know, Greg, in the past, we tried to go multiple levels, and actually it was recommended that we, although we did it, I know it was recommended that we tried. I'd be curious, and I don't know if, it'd be good to know if we're better off to go to F this year and then go to D next year. Does that
well,
create?
that's why I asked Olivia, and she said that I asked her, if they say no on level D or whatever it is, would they then just dismiss it and say too bad, or would they say no, we won't go there, but we'll go to the next level down? She said that's a possibility. So
We should go one level at a time.
Actually, Greg, what my question is let's say, because it sounds like we're better off to do maybe one level a year, but and what was her viewpoint if we do F this year and then next year we try to do D?
Well, right now what she's doing, first of all, I asked her to look up what the salary range is for D. I mean, it may not be much more than F. So let's just see what it is, and then we can decide that.
Hey guys, my 2 cents is just Ryan.
Yeah.
She's done an incredible job. I'd like to push for as high as this amount as humanly possible.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you, Ryan. The problem is that in the past we've tried to jump a couple levels and then just been slammed shut. So I want to make sure we think this through and do it in a way that we're likely to get her an increase.
Well, let's what Miss Olivia says. See what level D is, and go from there.
But historically, when we've tried to do that, we've been shut down. But they've always got a raise, so the person's never been denied a step up historically.
So that means we should try. Absolutely.
No, wait.
Oh, yeah, we have had a deny.
Yeah, we've been denied a step up. Absolutely have.
So when we originally tried to increase Jenny's salary above her level, they denied it, but granted her a salary increase regardless that they thought was appropriate.
But they didn't let her go up to the next level.
To the highest level.
I remember that.
They let her go to the next level.
So right now, Anne is at the max of her level.
So I know that
Let's let Olivia speak. Olivia, tell us what you're going to say.
Sure. Just to provide some clarification, Anne is at the max of her current salary range of level G.
Right.
And so right now she would be eligible for any additional merit-based type of increases without doing the level increase.
Right.
So if you wanted to go beyond F, the next level would be E as an elephant.
Right. That's what
And that maxes that maxes out at $12,644.
Okay, well, I think we should probably try for that because
I agree.
it's only $600 more total. So it's like $300 per level. So, thank you,
And so
Olivia.
that'll have to be a motion, ensuring that everyone is in agreement with that. And then we need a memo submitted to our office so we can prep the paperwork to get that in with the appropriate level of reviews.
Great. Thank you very much for your information.
Ray, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there anything that you can suggest to us in the way we do the paperwork to ensure, to make it, to set us up for the best possible outcome of either getting to E, or if they decide that not E, then at least we get F? Because as we've mentioned, we've tried for executive officers in the past, and we've tried one level a couple times, and we tried multiple levels once. And in all three cases that I've been involved, it's been denied. So I just, anything you can help us with, just try to get, I mean, we want to go for 2 levels, but if they say no 2, that they maybe would at least consider, okay, no to E, but we'll take F. Is there anything you can help us with in the paperwork?
To be on the program complexity. Can you hear me?
Debbie,
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the focus would be the program complexity, the various and different and many types of licenses that you issue, capturing all that information, the different tiers with some of those licenses, the board growth from maybe the last time there was a level increase, and capturing any of those differences between when the last level was increased to what you're proposing now.
and does the cat compaction mean anything to them?
Yeah, I would definitely include all that information in the request, kind of like how it's in the memo. And then that'll demonstrate, all of the various categories that the various reviewing departments will be looking for to make a determination if they want to approve it at the higher level or make modifications to the request.
Sounds good.
The memo refers to 2010. Is that the last time the level changed?
Let me check real quick.
I think it was 2015.
Can I ask you something? I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the information there, it says in 2015 the exempt level salary was increased to level G, and then
in
tried to
15.
increase to D as in David in 2017, and it was denied. So when it was denied, what was the result? It was just simply flat denial, and that it wasn't like, okay, we can make it to E or F. So it was just denial.
As I recall, it was just denial. And that was for a different person. That wasn't for Ann. And she wasn't the EO at the time. So,
And sometimes the individual may not be at the max of the range. And so if that person was at the max at the time of the submittal for that level G, it could have been that they denied the level, but they allowed an increase to the salary that was still within that current exempt level, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, but in this case, Ann is at max, so.
Right. Does anybody have any additional questions for Olivia?
No, but I think we should try the F level, get something better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that after. Olivia, it sounds like there aren't any more questions for you. So thank you very much for being with us and providing your input. And we'll say goodbye.
Thank you again, and please submit the letter to my attention. I can provide the information to someone at the board to relay that to you. That way, once the letter is ready, it can be sent to me or Nicole Lay, the HR chief.
Great. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Greg, I'd like to,
Well, let's wait.
offer a friendly amendment. Instead of going to level F, we go to E and L.
You mean E? It's hard to hear you because of that noise. I think when Olivia hangs up, it's supposed to go away.
I don't know who that is.
Moderator, is Olivia still connected?
I had muted her and then it got unmuted. When I moved her back to the attendee panel, I've just muted her again, so it should be cleared up.
Okay, good.
Greg, what I was suggesting is a friendly amendment that instead of the amendment moving her to level F as in Frank, that we move her to level E as in elephant.
Very good. And who seconded? Was it
I
Sung?
seconded. He made the motion, so that's why I'm asking him for a friendly amendment.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely support.
Okay, good. We have a motion. We have a second. Now, member comments or questions? Do I hear any? Albert, you had something you were going to say.
I'm afraid that, if you jump to level, if they say no, that means she end up with completely no increase at all.
Well, I asked the question to Olivia and she said that wasn't the case. She said that if they don't agree with that level, that they will come back with something less than that.
And that's what I understand also, Mr. President.
Yes.
Greg, and maybe the way we put together the package, I mean, we don't really want to say that, but, maybe there's a way we can, I don't know what the package looks like. I know I was part of one of these a while back, but maybe we can look at the package and figure out if there's a way that we can set ourselves up that if they don't go for E, that they will know to just give her F and not just say no.
Well, the downside to that is that if we offer something less, then they may just choose to go to the less and not even think about the greater. I don't know.
Yeah. My question is, E is 12,644, and it seemed like if that doesn't go through, they would at least give her the highest in F, which is 12,377.
Right. That's actually what Olivia said, as far as I understood it.
Yeah.
That they would. So,
This is Eileen. I just wanted to make sure that the motion included, because what the memo included was increasing at both the exempt level to either an F or an E and further increase the salary, because there's two things you
right, to the max level.
But you need to move the max. So that's just a friendly reminder, whoever is doing the motion, to take a look at the memo just to make sure it includes both portions if that's what the board wants to do.
Right. Thank you, Eileen. So, Sung, you should indicate that as part of the motion that you will increase to the maximum salary in level E.
Yes, that sounds good.
And Debbie, you will second that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Are there any other comments by members? All right, let's open up for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Our first comment comes from Stephen Gray. Steve, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on this very, very important subject. I'll just offer a couple of things from my experience. First of all, you never get more than you ask for in these situations. I've never had anybody submit a request and then the people above, especially in an organization like the government, would actually give you more than you ask for. The second thing is Olivia indicated that the complexity of the program. I know that in other states, the executive officer positions got a consideration of complexity over other licensing boards, because pharmacy is the only professional licensing board that licenses both people and facilities. And in many cases, it's the only one that licenses people and facilities who are in other states. And by emphasizing, and has to deal on a real national basis often with the FDA, et cetera. The FDA does not regulate the practice of medicine or dentistry. The other thing you might want to find out, and if it's politically wise, is find out what the executive officers of the other licensing boards are at. It may well be that the pharmacy board has fallen behind in terms of category or something from the executive officer of the other licensing board, and that should be valuable information and may sway your arguments. Those are the things I can offer to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments from public?
Yes, our next comment comes from Paige Talley. Paige, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. It's just a clarification question. Could someone read the motion again?
Sure, I'll tell you what it is. The motion is to increase the salary level of the executive officer to level E and to increase the salary within that level to the maximum.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Seeing no further requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, and now it's time to vote. So, Ryan Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh. Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa. Maria, I guess we can't hear you again. Okay. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason Weiss. Jason, are you here?
I think he left.
Oh, he dropped off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This
Okay.
is Maria. I vote yes.
Thank you, Maria.
This is Maria.
Albert, I got you. Albert Wong.
I vote.
Albert Wong, yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Now, the next item is the executive officer's report. So I will turn it over to Ann for her report.
Thank you, Greg. I will be very brief. I've detailed a lot of information in the meeting materials, so I won't review them. I will just provide an update on the broad waivers. We did issue a waiver yesterday under the President's delegated authority specific to the supervision of interns providing vaccinations. And 50,000-foot view, the issue is where there are vaccination teams and they might be comprised of perhaps pharmacy students as well as students from, going through medical school or nurse practitioners, those kinds of things. Under existing law, that would require a pharmacist to be there to supervise the pharmacist. And there was no allowance for interprofessional supervision. So what that waiver does is it does create flexibility for interprofessional supervision for the interns, which is the only thing within our swim lane. We do continue to issue both site-specific waivers. Many times that is specific to the renewal of licenses without an inspection. We have started also issuing mobile pharmacies consistent with 4062, and that provision is allowing for the vaccinations to occur outside of the pharmacy where they're using pharmacy technician personnel and those kinds of things. We did recently reopen our offices. Sorry, that occurred after the meeting materials were released, so we are again open to the public. We continue to have our inspectors really focus on case investigation reports and mediations. We're still not going out into the field at this point unless it's an imminent public danger kind of situation, recognizing that, the disease is still very active in many areas of the state. We do anticipate that they will be returning probably in the next couple of weeks. We're continuing to monitor very closely the statistics regionally. consistent with how the state is managing it. It's my understanding that there's been some information released specific to the vaccines. The vaccine efforts are really being spearheaded by the Department of Public Health, and we are lending support everywhere that we can to help facilitate getting the vaccines into people's arms, to quote many other people that have said that. Does anybody have questions about COVID or the board's response and how we're handling it? Hearing none, the only other...
I got a question. Did the board staff get vaccinated?
Albert, I'm not quite sure that I can totally respond to that. I'm not quite sure that that would be public information. Okay. I would say that we have staff that fall into the various categories. I
just want to make sure you guys protect it, that's all.
I think it's a HIPAA protected, so.
Okay, well, it's fine. I just want to, make sure you guys are protected, that's all.
Yeah, I would say that, we're following the state guidelines.
Okay.
With respect to, right?
No problem.
And then, okay, thank you. Any other questions on COVID? So then I just also wanted to quickly provide an update on the implementation of AB 149, which changed the security prescription form. So the provisions have been in the law for over a year, but there was a transition period. So the new requirements took effect in January of this year. So the board, we have been educating our licensees since enactment of 149. Towards the end of the year last year, we also started working in cooperation with both prescriber boards and the DOJ to facilitate additional education and reminders in the hopes that we could avoid patients being negatively impacted by this transition. If you may recall, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was the transition originally based on 1753, and there was a lot of patient harm because it was resulting in delays in therapies. So the board developed a policy statement, and then there was the cleanup legislation. I'm happy to report that there does not seem to be the same level of, I'm going to call it, chaos in the marketplace. I'm hopeful that all of the education that we did in the partnership, both with our stakeholders as well as working with the prescriber boards and the DOJ, and really tried to get a lot of that education out there to make sure that prescribers were aware of the changes. It seems to have yielded some good results. That's my report.
Thank you, Ann. Okay. The next item on the agenda is closed session, but I don't think we have any more closed session items. Eileen, I'm sorry.
President, do we want to give the public a comment period on the executive officer report?
Sure. Thank you.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and submit that to all panelists. Our first comment comes from Paige Talley. Paige, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, moderator. Ms. Sodergren, I heard that you say, and just correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a waiver for pharmacy techs to give vaccinations outside of the pharmacy premises. Is that correct?
There's not a waiver for that. What we are allowing is we are issuing mobile pharmacies for that purpose. So DCA issued a waiver that will allow technicians to administer vaccines, but under the law, technicians can only work inside of a pharmacy. So under 4062, we're using the provisions to allow for the use of a mobile pharmacy so that technicians can engage in those vaccination services outside of the pharmacy as deemed appropriate by the supervising pharmacist.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my concern, that they aren't techs any longer when they're outside of the pharmacy premises.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Seeing no other requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, now let me ask, Eileen, are you aware of any other closed session matters?
No, I'm not. We
finished it.
Yes, we did.
Okay, great. I thought so. All right. So that being said, it's time to adjourn the meeting. And thank you all for participating. Thank you, public. Thank you, members. And we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you again.
Everybody take care and stay healthy.
Greg, the next meeting is March, did you say March 18th? I just want to double check.
Actually, I don't think I said.
Yeah, I have March 18th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Lippy and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay
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 safe.
well.
Take care and stay safe, Greg.
You too. Thank you.
All right.